The ego refuses to be distressed by the provocations of reality, to let itself be compelled to suffer. The pleasure of satisfying a savage instinct, undomesticated by the ego, is incomparably much more intense than the one of satisfying a tamed instinct. In mourning, it is the world which has become poor and empty. In melancholia, it is the ego itself. One might compare the relation of the ego to the id with that between a rider and his horse. It is easy to see that the ego is that part of the id, which has been modified by the direct influence of the external world. Every normal person, in fact, is only normal on the average. His ego approximates to that of the psychotic in some part or other and to a greater or lesser extent. Analysis does not set out to make pathological reactions impossible, but to give the patient's ego freedom to decide one way or another. Children are completely egoistic. They feel their needs intensely and strive ruthlessly to satisfy them. The functional importance of the ego is manifested in the fact that normally control over the approaches to motility devolves upon it. Towards the outside, at any rate, the ego seems to maintain clear and sharp lines of demarcation. The poor ego has a still harder time of it. It has to serve three harsh masters, and it has to do its best to reconcile the claims and demands of all three. At the height of being in love, the boundary between ego and object threatens to melt away. The repressed merges into the id as well, and is merely a part of it. Originally the ego includes everything. Later it detaches from itself the external world. There is no doubt that the resistance of the conscious and unconscious ego operates under the sway of the pleasure principle. The ego represents what we call reason and sanity, in contrast to the id, which contains the passions. Neurosis is the result of a conflict between the ego and its id. The repressed is only cut off sharply from the ego by the resistances of repression. It can communicate with the ego through the id. The ego feeling we are aware of now is thus only a shrunken vestige of a far more extensive feeling. Subscribe my channel if you like my work, and don't forget to press the bell icon.